Okay, recording has started. So yes, today we'll be covering VPN technology, which is still a very widely used technology, and it will be there uh, for a long time. And this is one of the very commonly and widely used technology. So let's look at the VPN. I'm going to the slides. I hope you can see my screen, particularly the slides. I'm just sharing the slides right now.
Yes,
Yeah, and here we have reached until this point. Okay, let's discuss this. This is our topic of the day, and I think this will consume our whole day because the lab is pretty long. The demo is pretty long for this. It's a big configuration, but it's as I mentioned, it is one of the very commonly used technology and very widely used and very helpful in these scenarios, even in Azure networking. So let's just try to understand what is VPN technology. And these days, even the users, almost everyone knows what the VPN technology is and what is the VPN software. Nowadays, people who are not even technology oriented, those who are not know wise in technology, they also know they know that there is an app called VPN app which you can download on the phone and connect to the network that will give you access to content which are sometimes blocked by ISPs of your specific region. So VPN basically hides the data content what is being transferred over the connection. So let's run through run through these slides. You'll have a bit clear idea what we are discussing here. VPN technology uses encryption and secure tunneling to protect your data and keep your internet activity private. So this is a very common technology, as I mentioned. VPN technology creates a secure encrypted connection over the internet to protect your data. Now, when you talk about internet, now there's a distinction between the networks. The network which is there in your house, you consider and call it usually as a private network. And when it comes to internet, particularly, it is called as public network. So this is the distinction between this is the difference between uh, these two networks. Why your home network or the office network is called private? Because you are the only one who has access to that particular network and the network resources. So if you are having a network at your home, might be having multiple devices connected to it, your TV, your refrigerator, and so on, and your different gadgets what you have at home. So but everything remains in a very confined space that's called a private network. And when it comes to internet, whatever is there on the internet is called as public network. The internet itself is called as a public network because the resources available on internet is accessible to everyone and anyone and everyone who has internet access, right? So uh, that's how you segregate first what is the private network and the public network, and then VPN comes in, helping you in connecting your two different private networks through the encrypted and what do you say the encrypted tunnel. Let me do one thing before we go through as we always do. Before we run through the slides, I will just explain you this important points on the whiteboard so that you understand what we are talking about, what is private network and what is public network, and where you can actually make use of VPN technology. So I'm going to share the screen now. One second. All right. So you should be able to see the whiteboard now. Let's understand this first. Private network and public network. As I mentioned, if it is your home network, you might be having a router from your ISP. Can be a very basic router, like when you get the connection from your ISP, they might provide you the router by themselves and set it up for you. And this can be a wired network or the wireless network. So almost all the routers which you get nowadays are having both the capabilities. Both are wireless and wired as well. So this can have a wireless connectivity, or it can have a wired connection, wherein you can make use of switch. Or what happens? Let's be practical. The router itself has multiple ports with it, so you might not be using another device for wired connection. So this device might have multiple network ports, wherein you can use a wired device. For example, let's say you have a desktop, right? You can just wire it to the router directly. And if you're having laptop, you might be using the wireless, right? And so on. You can have any devices connected to this network. So this there's a now this is a clear distinction between the private network and the public network. So this part of the network is private network, and whatever goes on onto the internet, this is called as public network. Okay, and we you know that we use different set of IPs. There are private IP ranges. We have private IP addressing, and there are public. When you go to the public internet, internet works on the public IPs. It cannot function on private IPs. And these public IPs are mostly uh, managed by the ISPs, your regional ISP, internet service providers, and so on. So this is a public network which is open to everyone and accessible to everyone. And this is your private network. Now, similarly, if it is your office network, you might be having your office setup, and this might be much bigger than your home network. So you have your connectivity here, you have router, you might be having multiple different technologies, you might be having switch here, firewall, switches, and so on. I'm just trying to explain you where VPN can be useful and helpful. And you might have your servers connected to it, wired, and you might be having the users also connecting to the switch. So this again becomes your private network, and you have the public network, right? So public network, internet is you know that anyone and everyone has access to it as long as they have internet access, internet connection. And nowadays is very easy to get the internet connection. If you're having your mobile device with the mobile data services, you'll get the internet access, right? So it's a dangerous place. It's considered as a public network, and it is open to everyone. So anyone can access anything over the internet, and there are hackers as well who keeps watching the data which is being transferred, and they try to tamper and uh, you know steal the data. So that's what happens on the internet. So how does the VPN help here? So let's say this is my head office, at, and I have my branch office as well. So let's look at the corporate, in the corporates how the VPN is helpful. So I have a branch office. Okay. So this branch office will also be having mostly everyone these days have internet access. That's bare minimum for any company to have. So they will also have internet connectivity. They'll also be connected to internet, and they will have their own network as well. It can be servers or it can be only users. So what happens in most of the scenarios, like if you have a branch office, you have, let's say, 50 plus users. Doesn't really this number doesn't really you know mention what do you say? It's not necessary that this if you have this many number of users only, then you should have the VPN connection. I'm just giving you an example. Let's say these two networks, you have these two networks. Now, what is the way how what is the channel they have or the way they have to access their network from each other from head office? Usually, what happens? The head office will be having hosting. The headquarters will be hosting all the data center, which you consider as a on-prem data center, which will be hosting all the servers and applications and everything. And from the branch offices, users will be accessing those services, right? So, for example, this user, this user needs to access an application which is hosted here in your head office. So, how this user can connect to this head office, the application? There are multiple ways how you can make this application accessible to your users. One is direct publishing. Okay? That means your service has to be exposed to the internet. For example, I'm running a application, and this application has to be accessed over the branch offices as well as for my remote users. So let's say I have some roaming users who are connected directly to the internet, and they also need to access this service which is running here. So if there's an application which is which supports HTTP protocol, it will be easier for you to publish and make it accessible to the users. So what I can do is I can register a domain name and map it to my public IP address. So let's say I can host my application on my website abc.com, and that has the public IP, and this public IP will be actually assigned to me by the ISP on my connection, and it will be mapped to the specific server with the help of NAT technology. We have seen that in the previous discussions. So this is one way your application is published over the internet, and the users they can access this particular web application through the internet. Now, this is a risky scenario. Why? Your site, you know that it's open to anyone over the internet, right? So anyone who's having internet access, whether they are the legitimate users or illegitimate users, if they are legitimate users, they will know they will have their credentials to access this site. They'll provide their username, password, or whatever authentication you want them to authenticate with. But it is also open to anyone, and they can try breaking into your website, right? So this service is publicly available. Now, you can't do that with every application. You cannot publish everything. If there are any critical or sensitive applications, you will be bound by the local authorities and the what do you say the compliance based on the compliance requirement of that industry. They might say that no, you can't publish your application to the internet, but it should be still accessible to your remote users on the remote branch offices. So in that scenario, VPN will be really helpful. VPN, what does VPN do? It eliminates you from exposing your services directly to the internet. What you can do in this scenario, you will have a VPN tunnel established between your sites. Okay? This is called IPsec tunnel. Okay. And this is also, there are different names of it. It is also called a side-to-side tunnel, VPN tunnel, and IPsec tunnel. So this is so VPN is basically establishing a connection, a private connection over the public connection, right? So VPN is you're still making use of public network because you're passing through the internet and reaching your branch office. But after that, you're establishing a secure encrypted tunnel. So this is called a secure encrypted tunnel. Secure encrypted tunnel. So where your data is completely encrypted and is being transferred over the internet, but in a secure tunnel. It's a logical tunnel which you can't really see it, but your data transfer is happening through the secure channel between these two devices. So anyone who tries to, hack into this channel, they won't be able to do anything because all this data which is being transferred will be encrypted, and they can't really decrypt. It's not. It's near to impossible to decrypt any encrypted data, right? So that's the protection which VPN provides you. So this is one scenario. This is called site-to-site tunnel. Okay, you solved one problem. You have two offices, and you are connected with the IPsec VPN tunnel. What about this user, which I have given you an example? This user is connected to the internet. He's not sitting in the branch office. He also needs to access this application. You want to make you have to make this application accessible to this user. Here you have something called again you can use the same technology called VPN and establish a secure tunnel between the client machine and this and the head office, and this is called a site point to site tunnel. This is site to site tunnel, the first one between two different offices, and between the user and the office, the tunnel which is established here is called point to site tunnel, or you can also call it as client VPN connection, client to site VPN connection. Okay, so this is how the VPN technology, this is where you use VPN technology, and this is how it will help you secure your data transfer over the internet. So in this case, what is happening now? Your services, your application, your data, which is sensitive, and it is not exposed to the internet. So usually we don't companies do not use the websites to share the data, the critical data, the sensitive data. Websites are used for specific functions. It can be used for marketing your products. It can be used for telling about your business. But the website is not actually the platform to use for sharing data. But these days, you see that most of all the banking services are providing you the banking solution uh, over the website itself. They have so there are different mechanisms implemented. There are a lot of security controls has to be implemented in order to do that. Not everyone can afford to provide that level of security. So this is one of the easiest and cheapest solutions available for organizations to have their different sites connected, to have their application accessible to users who are, always roaming, who are on the site, on the field, so they can make use of VPN technology. So if it is between the sites, between the different offices, it's a IPsec tunnel, site-to-site tunnel. And if it is between user and the application, the servers, it can be a site to point-to-site VPN tunnel. Just give me a break for a minute. I'll be back with you. All right. So that was a brief explanation about the VPN. I'll try to make it much more simpler. So let's draw a simple
Excuse
diagram
me,
here.
sir.
Yes, yes.
Sir, for this 50 years, first we are connecting to the VPN network. After that,
Yeah.
we are going for the authentication. Enter ID we will do. Is it, sir?
No, no, there's no entirely in picture here. I'm
Yeah,
just trying to explain the on-prem
only for
scenario,
the
how it
network.
works. Yeah.
Okay, sir. No,
So
sir.
I'll
My point of question is we are using Enter ID. No, sir. After the VPN, we can use Enter ID or.
Yes, yes, for authentication, Enter ID. Enter ID is
Okay.
specifically that's particularly the Azure identity and access management product.
Yeah, authentication is
So
login
yeah,
purpose.
that's
Yeah.
on the cloud on Azure cloud. So
Okay,
here
okay,
it can
sir.
be different. So I'll just explain you one more time. A simple diagram here,
Okay,
one
okay,
more
sir.
explanation because that's what makes it clear. Then only you can understand the points on the slides. Okay, I'll just explain you how it works basically. Let's take this as internet cloud. I have my headquarters, call it as headquarters or head office. It's up to you. And there's no cloud in picture here. I'm just giving you the
Yeah,
simple
yeah. Okay,
scenario
sir. This is
on-premise.
for only internet connections,
Exactly.
not in the cloud. Yeah. Okay, sir.
I'm just
Understood. Thank you.
explaining you. Yeah. So here we have branch offices. So usually what happens is your headquarters might have a data center, full-fledged data center where you have all the servers running. You might be having your domain controller, your file server, your application server, and so on, right? This is a typical scenario, and you will be having the users, desktop users or laptop users sitting here and using those IT resources. So this is a very simple scenario, okay? And you have your branch offices. You may usually uh, companies do not have the companies will have a very limited IT footprint on the branch offices. So, for example, here they just have the internet connection, for example, and they have their switch here. So they might not be having servers running there. Only some. For example, let me just make it a bit clear here. Okay, so it could be just some users. It can be any number of users, some desktop users, laptop users. Similarly, here in this branch, you have switch, you have the network connected, you have laptop users, you have desktop users, and so on. Okay. So when companies have this scenario, this type of network, they'll have to look into some solution which can, connect these branch offices to the headquarters and make these users access the applications centrally. So for that, there are multiple options they have. If these offices are in close proximity, for example, they are within Dubai, okay? If they are within Dubai, they might approach ISP for asking this solution. You already have internet access, that's different thing, okay? And your ISP might give you connectivity solution here, right? If it is, let's say this is a government entity, so the government entity can have a dedicated connection, not through internet. They can have a dedicated, fiber connected throughout their sites. This is one of the solution the ISPs can give, right? They are the one who can facilitate this type of connectivity. So although you have internet, these sites connected to internet, this with the help of this connectivity, your connections become private. These are completely private connections, right? And it is not shared. So your data transfer from your head office to the branch offices or branch offices to the head office, it remains on these fiber connections, which are provided by the ISPs. So this is one way of maintaining your privacy, data privacy, and making sure that your information is not disclosed to the internet. This is one scenario. Or there's another technology, similar technology to VPN. It's not exactly VPN. Let's say now this will be very costly. Providing a dedicated fiber connectivity between the site is not a very straightforward job, and it's not cheap. That will be very costly, and that can be only used by for example, government entities, or what I've told you. ISPs also provide, so they have different options, right? So ISP, they can either give you a private connectivity, private connections. They can also give you MPLS connection. This is another type of connectivity. It uses the internet, but it doesn't expose the traffic to the public internet. So it will be a private network managed by ISP. So first connection type was physical connectivity. A second connection type is you're using the internet connection from your ISP, but your ISP is building a separate virtual network which connects your offices together. So that's uh, possible with the help of MPLS technology. Now, this is again a very costly technology, and it can be easily used within the region. You can say even you can go across the region, but this becomes very costly because of the type of connectivity and ISPs involved in this. Now, the third and affordable connectivity option for you is the VPN. So this is a very private connectivity between the sites, and it's limited to the locations, specific location. MPLS can be local or global as well, but in this case, you have to take the service from ISP. You're dependent on ISP. Then the last one is VPN technology, which is open for everyone to use, and it can be easily established and utilized. So this is the option which almost all the organizations go with, VPN connectivity for their inter-site connections, for site-to-site or on-to-site connections. So let's look at this scenario now. Okay, so we're talking about this the solution here for providing connectivity between the head office and the branch offices. So now in this scenario, I just have internet access. I don't have a lot of money to go for private connectivity, and neither the MPLS connection. So what you can do is go for the VPN connection. Now, again, it depends on your requirement. If you want to just host a service over the internet, if it is not a critical service and not critical data, you can just publish it out over the internet. But that will not solve the problem. Like for example, here you have the file server, right? File server is a daily need for every user. So when they are working on data, they have to save their files somewhere. File server, we have seen in the previous scenarios how the file server is accessed. So you might be having a centralized location. Why do we need the file server? For centralized data storage and protection, right? So if you have your users' data centralized on a file server, you can easily protect it with the help of backup technologies and so on. So it will be easy for organization to protect their company data. So we are talking about the organization's data, right? Not something personal data which you can store on the file server. So now you want to make all these services available to users. First of all, you have your data controller, domain controller here. What does domain controller do? It can provide you centralized authentication, right? So you have something called Active Directory Domain Services. Active Directory Domain Services is similar to your Entra ID on cloud. This is on-prem identity solution, right? This is identity and access management solution, IAM solution. This is the on-prem solution, and this is your cloud solution. When you're on having authentication and authorization requirements, centralized authentication, in the on-prem scenario, we'll go for Active Directory domain services. And if it is on cloud, on Azure, we'll go with Entra ID. So these two are similar. But here we are talking about on-prem scenario. We have Active Directory domain controller also. So, so what you want is you want to provide authentication services first of all, right? That's what gives you the control over all these machines which are running in different sites. So that's something you need. So you need to provide that from centralized location. Second, you want to have centralized data store, data sharing. So you can share the data. Everyone can store their data in the file server, and users from this location or the server location from headquarters itself, they can access this data, right? That's one thing. Then uh, third, you can also share the application, right? Application access. So all of this, you want to facilitate it, you want to make sure that all these users who are working in the branch offices, they are able to access, authenticate to your domain controller. They are authenticated users. You want to manage those users centrally. They should be able to access the data share. They should be able to access the application and so on. So what is the best solution now? How do you make this happen? With the help of VPN technology, right? Now, if it is a branch office, if it is just a branch office with, let's say you have 2 to 4 number of users, okay, just two to four number of users for this particular requirement. If you just have this many users, you might not go with IPsec tunnel between the sites, right? You might go with point to site connectivity. That will be easier for you to use, and that will be cheaper as well. Because when you want to do the site to site connectivity, there are specific requirements. I'll tell you. So now what we can do is we can establish a tunnel, IPsec tunnel between these sites over the internet. Now this is all going through the internet. So and that's a very important point because VPN works over the internet, right? So you have your connectivity, private connectivity over the public network. That's the point actually. So over the public network, you're establishing a private connectivity. So in this scenario, you can see that this is called in the networking terminology hub and spoke setup. Hub, hub and spoke topology. It is called topology, network topology, wherein you have this site working as hub, and these sites are called as spoke. That means you're centrally sharing the data. So branch office one and branch office two, they can access these resources in the data center in your headquarters, but they can't share data between the sites, between the branch office one and branch office two. They can't access it. We can make that as accessible as well, as long as you have the VPN connectivity. You can do that. But this is a typical scenario how the VPNs are set up between the headquarters of this and the branch offices. So what if you have only few users? What is the solution you use? You will use site-to-site VPN. Oh, sorry, point-to-site VPN. So let's say I have few users only. So for them, they will also have internet access for sure. So these are site-to-site tunnels, site-to-site tunnels, right? And this connectivity from this user to the VPN gateway, this will be a point-to-site tunnel. So this will be this gets messier here. I'll draw it like this. Just imagine that it's also going through the internet, and this is called point-to-site tunnel. So site-to-site connectivity and point-to-site connectivity. This is the solution. This is how this solution helps your organizations providing connectivity between the sites. Now, this branch offices can be anywhere in the world, right? Because you're using the internet as a media to access your headquarters in a secure manner. So this branch office can be in let's say USA, this can be in India, and your head office can be in UAE, for example. So this is the technology which helps you achieve this kind of connectivity and provide access to your applications, services, and data to the remote users, or remote officers, or the remote users. I hope this is clear. This is what we are trying to see now. So, Sujini, yes, the here in case of Entra ID, we are having the Active Directory domain services functioning. Now,
Okay,
we'll
sir.
see how this technology will help in cloud. Okay, let's look at the same scenario. We have seen hybrid setups, right? Now, let's say I have my uh, Azure cloud. Now, Azure is also connected to the internet, right? It's an internet cloud service. Let's say, let's put it here to be easier to understand. Okay. So now let's add one more site, Azure as a site. Okay, and I have a network set up here, a VNet, right? And I have my servers running here and different resources. I have a storage as well, storage, VMs, and so on. Now, uh, what kind of connectivity I can have between my site and this Azure cloud? There are two options you have. What are the two options we have? We have been discussing this many times. So I would expect you guys to tell me what are the two solutions available for me to have a connectivity between on-prem and the cloud, public cloud service? What are the two options available? Anyone? Okay, let me explain you. So we have two options for this for connectivity between the on-prem and the cloud. One is the what is the first one is site-to-site VPN connection. Okay,
Sir, express route. VPN.
exactly. Second one is express route. Now, what is the difference between these two? Site-to-site VPN, you have understood how the site-to-site VPN works. It goes over the internet again, it connects over the internet. So we can establish a VPN tunnel between your on-prem setup and the Azure cloud. So this becomes as a part of your network, right? Now you have this huge network. You have now you can what you can even do is you can share these services which are running in Azure with your branch office users. So you can configure the VPN in such a way that the connectivity will be allowed. Either you can have a tunnel again directly from each branch office with the Azure tunnel, Azure cloud, or you can have it if you want to manage it centrally. This is also possible. Or in most of the scenarios, if you want a better control and better administration, then you will prefer to have it through your head office. So even these branch office users, you can make them, access. You can make these Azure services accessible over the headquarter connection, the VPN connection. So what you have here, for example, these users can even access the Azure services, and even this the branch office user one. So with the help of VPN, you are now able to connect to your Azure network, and it becomes another network for you. So all this here, what we're discussing is this is your private network. This is your private network, right? All these are your private networks, and even the Azure cloud is considered as a the VNet is considered as a private network unless you connect to the internet. So or connect over the internet. So this is your public network. So you're establishing your private connectivity over the public network, and you're making sure that your connection is secure. Whatever data you transfer is encrypted and is not hackable by anyone. No one can steal your data or hack your data, right? So this is so connecting between the sites. So the moment you connect this head office and the Azure cloud, your connectivity, your cloud model becomes a hybrid cloud model because you're connecting your data center and making use of Azure public public cloud as well. So first connectivity was site-to-site VPN connection over the internet, and then express route, which is a private connection, and this has to be provided by your ISP, localized internet service provider. So this is also possible, but again, that the moment you say private connection, it becomes costly, and it will have more costs associated with it. I hope that is clear. So these are the two options we have for connecting your cloud and on-prem setup. Okay, any doubt here, any question here about the site-to-site connection or the point-to-site connection or connectivity between the data center and the cloud? So you see that VPN is really helpful. It can be used. It is being used. It's one of the oldest technology which is still valid and still going to run for a long time. So it will be really good for you to have understanding of this technology and how it works and how to set up as well. We'll see a demo where you can set up this VPN tunnels. Okay. So let's continue the slides. Just give me 1 minute. I'll be back with you. Yes, sir, Harry, sir. That's all right. Okay. So I'm starting to share the. I think I'm already sharing this full screen, so you'll be able to see the slides as well. So, all right. So let's continue.
Sir, in
So you,
organization, they are using the same VPN technology, sir, IPsec, or now they
sorry,
updated, sir.
which
Now
one?
in organization, they are using the VPN,
They
is
still
it, sir?
use. That's what I told you.
Yeah.
It is one of the oldest technology, and it's still valid and being utilized very widely.
Okay, sir, okay.
This is one of the preferred method of having the connectivity between the sites. So let's run through the slides now. I have given you a bit of explanation on the whiteboard for your understanding. So here it's all theoretical. Now, VPN technology creates secure encrypted connection over internet to protect your data. So it does the encryption. What does the encryption means? Scrambles your data to keep it private so that your data is not, even if it is captured, if it is, stolen, nobody can understand or interpret what that data means. That's what the encryption does. Tunneling protocols. There are different protocols available: OpenVPN, IPsec, or WireGuard. IPsec is the subject we are discussing today. So this is a very widely used technology and is globally accepted and recognized. Secure the data as it travels through the internet. Authentication ensures only authorized users can connect. Okay, in a simple terms, a VPN connects your device to a remote server. This is about site to site specifically, encrypting your internet traffic so no one can see or tamper with it. So that's the technology of VPN. So here they're very specific about site to site VPN. It can be called as site to site VPN, or you can also call it as a IPsec VPN technology. So here, actually, the IPsec has different protocols. It's a suite of protocols which are used in this VPN technology. So Internet Protocol Security, a suite of protocols used to secure IP connections, communication by authenticating and encrypting each IP packet in a communication session, often used with IKE v2 for stronger security. IKE v2 is part of the protocol suite for this connectivity. Internet Key Exchange version 2, a secure and fast protocol that establishes and maintains secure connection between VPN devices. So all of this goes in theory, where you cannot really see how this is functioning, but you need to understand what protocols are involved in this communication and in securing the connection and so on. And there's a lot of theory behind this. You can do some some research on it. So you can see here there's a very simple diagram. What we are doing here is we're doing a establishing a site-to-site connection between our Azure cloud and on-prem setup, right? So you have on the left, we have our on-prem, sorry, the Azure cloud, a virtual network with the specific IP range in East US. So what do you need here? You need uh, oh, sorry, the product from Azure is called as VPN gateway. That's what you require to deploy on your virtual network. So you need a VPN gateway, uh, VPN gateway public IP address, and this is a basic requirement. Now, when you want to establish a site-to-site connectivity between your cloud and the on-prem setup, or your on-prem and the business, branch offices. So just consider this as a branch office. So even in that scenario, you need these components which are mandatory. VPN gateway. Nowadays, a firewall product comes with the VPN technology built into it. So most of the people, what the organizations do is they definitely implement the firewall as a basic security measure on the network on the perimeter, and that also has a VPN built into it. So you can use the VPN, the firewall itself as a VPN gateway. So we'll see how this works. So and you need a public IP address. So IPsec IKV2 site-to-site tunnel is established. This is what it shows here. Local network device public IP address. So you need the public IP again. You need a device which can give you this functionality, VPN gateway functionality on the on-prem scenario as well. Then you have point-to-site VPN. And again, there are different protocols used in point-to-site connectivity. So if you see an example here in this scenario, now VNet, this is the Azure cloud. So here we are considering our Azure cloud as a data center. Now, in scenarios where you don't have the hybrid setup, you have only your Azure cloud infrastructure as a service which you are using. So if I go back to the whiteboard, this is another scenario which is becoming very common now. I'll share the whiteboard now to explain this. Okay. So you see here, now what is happening is this is a complete hybrid setup. Now, if you're not going with hybrid setup, you're going for only the cloud setup, public cloud. So when you're building your Azure virtual network, so, so what organizations are doing is they're using Azure uh, public cloud itself as their data center. So instead of investing heavily on your on-prem setup, building the whole infrastructure, managing, maintaining it, uh, some companies are straight away going ahead with Azure public cloud, and they're building their whole data center on the cloud itself. That's much more easier and easier compared to the on-prem setup, right? So your data center from the beginning is over the cloud and it's available over the internet throughout the world. So you will have your VNet created, you'll have your services deployed here. You'll similarly exactly you'll replicate your data center as on-prem what you have. You'll have everything deployed here, and it will be much more flexible and feasible for you to manage. So this, let's say this Azure itself is your data center. So what you can do, how you can provide access. One second. Okay, so here you have your Azure as data center. So you can do the same thing. You can have your branch offices. Okay, let's say this is your branch office, and you have your remote users who are all connected over the internet. Okay, and they can establish a VPN connectivity with the cloud itself. And they can this is a site-to-site VPN, and this becomes point-to-site VPN, right? So this is also this is now nowadays becoming common scenario wherein organizations who are not investing on the on-prem setup and the scenarios. Clear? So now let's go back to the slides. Okay, this is what you see here. Here your VNet, your on the cloud setup is considered as your data center, and you're hosting all your services here, and you want to provide a secure connectivity to your services to the remote users. So you're using here point-to-site tunnels. So these users, they might be anywhere in the in the internet. They might be anywhere in the world connecting to the internet. They can still access your services through VPN technology in a secure manner. Right? Let's continue now. Okay. Here's a quick comparison between the side-to-side and the point-to-side VPN connection. You can see the feature connects. So in the side-to-side VPN, it is mostly used for network-to-network connectivity. So two different private networks. It can be your on-prem network one side and the cloud on the other side, or it can be your on-prem headquarters and the branch offices on the other side connecting to each other. So that's the side-to-side VPN is used for network-to-network connectivity. Point-to-side VPN is used for device to network. So it can be your mobile device, it can be a laptop or desktop which can connect to your network and access the corporate resources. Users in this side to side, you can enable the entire office, the whole network, the whole private network to access the services over the tunnel. And this one will be for individual user. So that's the purpose of it. Point to site. It's an individual user who is roaming around, who is not sitting in a one location, who has internet access and needs to access your resources from your headquarters or the data center. Always on. This will be between the site-to-site connection. The connectivity will be always on. It will be active all the time. And point-to-site, it won't be always on. It will be only on when you require to access the services. So common use hybrid connectivity if it is a cloud scenario, and point-to-site it's for the remote access. It's a remote access solution. You can also say the VPN. Now, what do we need to establish this VPN connectivity? So there is a specific requirement, as I told you. If it is a site-to-site VPN using IPsec, these are the mandatory requirements. To create an IPsec site-to-site VPN, you must have public IP on both the sites. This is the first requirement. You need to have a public IP on both the sides, right? We are talking about the side-to-side connectivity. So on-prem VPN device or Azure VPN gateway. So it depends on what side you have. So that device, the VPN device or the firewall should have a public IP assigned, which is a mandatory requirement. I'll again explain you that on the board. Uh, yeah, this is the first requirement. Public IP. Let's understand this. You need a public IP address on both the sides. You need VPN device on both the sides. Now that VPN device, as I told you, can be a firewall. It can be a router. So these are the companies which provide this solution: Cisco, Fortinet, Palo Alto, and so on. So they give you VPN as a solution along with the firewall or the router. They also have purpose-built devices, appliances for VPN. For the huge, if you have very big requirement for the VPN, if you want to have one box, fixed device for doing the VPN connectivity and maintaining the connections, then you can even deploy a particular dedicated VPN device. So I'll explain you that as well in a minute. And what do you need? The third requirement is matching IPsec settings. So while you're setting up the VPN connection, I'll show you. If there are specific settings on IPsec protocol, both sides must agree on security settings. So in both the sides, we should have a connectivity established, and the security settings should be agreed upon. So there are many properties of IPsec settings which you have to configure when you're building a side-to-side tunnel. Shared key, uh, the connection between those two sides will be authenticated, of course. So they can be a pre-shared key or they can be a certificate. So I'll again explain you how both the sides authenticate to each other. And non-overlapping IP addresses. What does it mean? This is very important. So your network, on-prem network, should have a different IP range than your Azure VNet. If you're trying to establish a VPN site-to-site connectivity, I'll explain you this on the whiteboard. Let's go to the whiteboard and try to understand all these properties, what we need. Okay. So let's say we are trying to establish a site-to-site tunnel. And there's one more scenario where VPNs is widely used. I can tell you that. For example, your utility company. Let's say I'm, let's say I provide the electricity. Okay, I'm electricity company. So I provide electricity to the whole city or the country, and you want to facilitate electricity bill payment to your end user, right? So what you do is usually what we see is you'll have banks, right? There are banks in these specific regions. Now these banks provide you payment channels for paying these bills, right? They provide you access. They integrate with your electricity service provider, and they give you the channel to pay the bills. And this scenario also, it's again a very, as I mentioned, VPN is very widely used. So between the bank and the electricity service provider, they might have a VPN tunnel established. So this is the most secure way of having the connectivity done and sharing the critical and sensitive information. So bank to bank, this is also a scenario where when you're paying the bill, this banking application is basically checking the system. It is integrated with the electricity system. There might be a SAP application which is running, which can fetch your data, user information, how much electricity you have consumed, and it will show the amount on your banking application and you pay through that channel. So in the background, it mostly happens on the side-to-side connectivity between the bank and the electricity service provider. This is one of the scenarios where VPN is again very widely used. Okay, so let's see. Now we have two different entities. I have let's take a scenario of on-prem and Azure. Or before that, we'll take on-prem and the branch office, headquarters, head office, and the branch office. This can be anywhere in the world, as I mentioned. Let's say this is in India. This is in USA, for example. Okay. Now you need to establish a VPN connectivity. What do you need? Number one, as I told you, you need a public IP address on each site. You need the public IP address. Okay, that is the only way you can reach to each other over the internet, right? So you have to have a connectivity first to the internet on both the sites, and you should own at least one public IP address. You know that you can buy the public IP from ISP, right? So the static IP address. Now public IP, you should also know that the moment you're connected to the internet, for example, if you are a user, a simple user, using your mobile phone or the laptop, the moment you're connecting to the internet, you get a public IP assigned, isn't it? Public IP is assigned to you, but this remains a dynamic IP address. This is a dynamic public IP, right? Can anyone tell me what is the difference between a dynamic public IP and the static public IP?
Dynamic will keep changing, static will be remain
Exactly.
same.
So dynamic IP, the nature of by the name itself, it says dynamic. That means on every connection, let's say you connected to the internet and then you disconnected and connected back, your IP might keep
We
changing.
already had a target
So,
customer.
so with this,
Wait, don't you already have target customers?
excuse me, someone is talking or they're on.
Sorry, sir.
No
My
problem. Please mute yourself. That's fine. So dynamic public IP keeps changing. So in this scenario, if you have dynamic public IPs on both the sides, your VPN connection will always fail. The moment the IP changes, your connectivity will fail. You'll have to again change the IP address, find out what is the dynamic IP your connection has got, and establish it again. So the best practice is you should have a static public IP address. So when I say public IP address, particularly, you should have a static public IP. And for that, you have to pay extra to your ISP to hold that IP address. Okay, that's the first thing you need on both the sides. You need a public IP address. And second thing is that you need the VPN device. Now, as I told you, VPN device can be a dedicated VPN device itself. It can come as an appliance, okay, or it can be a firewall or the router. So it can be your firewall device, which will have VPN functionality additional to it, or it can also be a router plus VPN. So you can have any of this scenario depending on your budget and your capacity to invest. So in most of the time, most of the scenarios, the practical scenario, what we have seen is that you will have a firewall. Nowadays, firewalls are cheaper. It can come with multiple features. You can have a firewall with VPN technology built into it, right? Similarly, you can have it on the head office. Or what you can do is you can even have a dedicated device in the head office. Let's say if your network is if your user base is too big, let's say you have 10,000 plus users. So it will be a very what do you say? the VPN load will be too high on your device on the firewall. If your firewall is acting as VPN, it will be overloaded and it might fail. So in that scenario, your companies, organizations might go with a dedicated VPN solution, a separate VPN device itself, which can support big number of VPN connections, site-to-site connection as well as site-to-site, point-to-site connection. So it can support site-to-site, for example, site-to-site, you have 100 plus site-to-site connections, and let's say, and you have point-to-site 10,000 plus users. So if it is a very huge requirement, you can go with a dedicated VPN device. Otherwise, your firewall, which has a VPN functionality built into it, can be good enough for having this VPN channel established. Okay, number three, what you need is the matching IPsec settings. So as I told you, IPsec is a suite of protocols which needs to be configured. We'll see that. And number four, what else you need? You need shared key. Shared key. Okay, this can be a password shared between the sites, between your two different two VPN devices, or it can be a certificate, public certificate, which you can buy from the certificate authority. So for number five, you need non-overlapping IP addresses. As I told you, non-overlapping IP ranges. What does it mean? Let's say your network here, you have a network of 10.0.0/16. You should not be having the same set of IP range here, this side. If you have this, then this traffic might not, go over the VPN connection. So your connectivity might fail. So this is the bare minimum requirement for having the VPN setup. If it is your own site, own head office and the branch office, you will definitely not do this mistake of using the same IP range in a different site as well. So you might have a different IP range here. Let's say you will have instead of 10, you might go with 100.0.0/16. It can be anything. So the objective is that it should not have a overlapping IP ranges between these sites. So then only the users from here can reach the services here and vice versa. So once you have all of these requirements, so you have the public IP assigned as static public IP address from your ISP. You have your VPN device, or you are using the existing router of the firewall. You agree upon IPsec setting. Now it's if it is a head office and the branch office, you as a network administrator, mostly this is done by a network engineer. So network engineer, you can decide on what protocols and settings to be used. You can agree upon. When should you this actually you have to agree if it is a different company. Let's say you're establishing this setup between uh, as I give you the example. Let's say this is my company which is providing electricity services, and this is the bank which wants to facilitate their customers to do the payment through their banking channel, right? This is very common nowadays. Now everyone knows that we can log into the banking app and we cannot just do the banking for ourselves. We can also do integrate our bank other services like paying the electricity bill, water bill, and so on, right? So if this is your bank, if this is the bank which is providing that needing that VPN connectivity, so between the bank and you should agree on these protocol settings as per the best practices. There are best practices, the security settings. You'll be seeing this when we configure the VPN when we see the demo. Then this is also something which you have to agree between you and the other side of the with the bank. For example, if bank is is your customer. So this is another thing which you have to agree upon. If it is just you doing connectivity between your head office and the headquarters and the branch office, then you can, it's again up to you what password you use between. So this will be used between these devices. This password is used for authenticating these devices, authentication. Then overlapping IP address, again, if it is your own network, headquarters in the branch office, then you will definitely not have the overlapping IP addresses. But in case if you're doing this setup, one side is you and the other side is the third party, then you should understand the IP. It can be now. It is also possible in this scenario. It is possible that bank is already using the same IP range which you are using. What do you do in that case? For example, bank is also using this range, /16. Now you can't really ask the bank to change the whole IP range just for having this VPN connection established, right? So this is not practical. Bank would not agree to that because that's a major change. Your network setup. This is a complete. This is a fundamental setup, right? You have seen in Azure when you're building the Azure infrastructure, the very first thing what we are doing is the establishing the virtual network and deciding on what IP range to be used, right? So this is quite possible. It is possible, and it happens all the time that you might have overlapping IP addresses. So in that case, you have to use something called NAT, network address translation, to mask this IP range behind a different IP address. So between these two sites, you can also activate and use NAT so that you hide. Here you can say this IP range. When the VPN connection is established, it can be hidden, it can be NATed with the different IP range. So we can do that as well. So that's not in the subject here in our discussion, but I'm just giving you the hint that if you come across this scenario, what is the solution? What is the workaround? Right? So let's go back to our whiteboard. Sorry, the slides. All right, let's continue with this. So this is what I have explained you. The mandatory requirement for IPsec, IPsec connectivity between the sites. Okay, now here in IPsec tunnel, logically when you're establishing a tunnel, it has two phases. Okay, when the connection, the tunnel is being established, there'll be two-phase approach. It will be, and again, it's all which happens in the background. So, but you need to understand this. When the tunnel is being established, there'll be two phases of tunnel establishment. Phase one, which is called IKE phase, IKE, which is the protocol which I have just told you in the previous slide. And phase two is the IPsec phase. So what happens at each phase? It explains you here. If you look at the purpose of phase one is to establish a secure tunnel. Okay, this is where between the two VPN devices, or between a VPN device and the firewall, which is used as a VPN device, a secure tunnel will be established. Only the tunnel establishment, and in the phase two, it actually secure actual data traffic. So this all happens in the background. So I'm just trying to explain you phase one, phase two. So when you might get questions around this in the examination or in the interview. So IPsec side to side, and this happens only in the side to side tunnel. These two phases of communication. So phase one is to establish the tunnel. Phase two is for securing the actual data. Phase one, what it does, authenticates VPN peers. Peers means two sides of the VPN. As I told you, we can use either pre-shared key or the certificate. So this is for authenticating each other. encrypts, they say phase two encrypts user data. Can we trust each other? This is the main question between the VPN devices. Can we trust each other? How do we send data securely? So this is what is this phases are about. Security association. You'll have to read something about this. This is all about the encryption and data encryption. In each phase, what happens? Authentication, pre-shared as there are two authentications, pre-shared key, and in the phase two, there's no authentication happens. Only in the phase one, the both the devices authenticate each other, confirming that the VPN tunnel is established being those two devices. Encryption, there are different encryption protocols available. AES is one of them. And integrity and hash algorithm. This is the algorithm which is used to the tunnel SHA. Diffie-Hellman group. DH is actually Diffie-Hellman group. These are all these are all the parameters of the encryption protocols. Encryption, hash, and Diffie-Hellman group. Uh, how keys are created between the devices. This is only phase one. Traffic defined. We don't define any traffic flow here. The phase two it defines which networks can connect over the IPsec tunnel. Lifetime, tunnel lifetime, data session lifetime. So this is just the parameters. This is what happens in the IPsec tunnel. It goes through a phase one of tunnel establishment, and it goes through the phase two of tunnel establishment. So these are the protocols, the parameters which you have to agree upon. So if you are using AES encryption for your phase one and phase two, you have to communicate to the other side. If it is a bank with whom you are establishing a side-to-side connection, you have to tell them these parameters. These are important. So the pre-shared key, if you're using the pre-shared key or certificate for authentication, if you're using AES or some other protocol for encryption, if you're using SHA or something else for hashing the data, Diffie-Hellman group, if you're using this, there are specific versions in it. So these are the things which you have to share with your other party, so that this should match exactly the same on the other side. If it is you who's doing the VPN connectivity between the headquarters and the branch office, you know that yourself. But if it is a third party, you have to share this information particularly with them for establishing a VPN connection. How security works in point-to-site connection, unlike site-to-site, point-to-site does not easily use phase one and phase two between two gateways. Instead, it uses user authentication and client-based encryption. So point-to-site, we have seen that a user who is connected to the internet can also connect to your headquarters with the help of point-to-site VPN connection. But how does it work? You need something called a VPN client, a software on your device. If it is a mobile device, it can be an app which can be downloaded. Authentication verifies the user's certificate or username password. So the user is authenticated in this, not the VPN device. So the user is authenticated against your Active Directory if it is an Active Directory on-prem setup. If it is Azure setup, it will be a username and password which will be stored in Entra ID. So your username password will be authenticated, then your data will be encrypted, and the secure tunnel will be established between your client machine, your device, and your network, Azure network or your on-prem network. Right. So VPN gateway, there's some information about the VPN gateway. A VPN gateway securely connects your on-premises network to your Azure virtual network using encrypted traffic. This is particularly about the product which is available on Azure. So on Azure, you can deploy a VPN gateway as a separate product, as you have deployed load balancer and application gateway. Similarly, this is another product. This also has the SKU. That means there are specifications for VPN gateway. So there are different configurations available for VPN gateway connections, such as site-to-site or point-to-site or VNet to VNet. Benefits simple to configure and 10 up to 10 Gbps depending on the VPN gateway. So this gives you the connection bandwidth of up to 10 Gbps. So it's based on the SKU what you select for your VPN device. And what is the challenge? It requires an on-prem VPN device. This is particularly talking about a connectivity between your on-prem and the Azure cloud. So on the Azure cloud, you need a VPN gateway, and on-prem also you need a VPN gateway, or it can be any other device which can function as a VPN gateway, a router or the firewall. Then you have the other option on Azure, which I have explained, Azure Express Route, and there is also called also Express Route Direct Connection. There are two different. It's actually the same technology, but there are different features available in it. We can't really see this in a demo. So the challenges with it is, but what is the benefit? The Express Route connection use a private dedicated connection through a third-party connectivity provider. So that third party will be your ISP most of the time. This connection is private. So this Azure private connection between your data center and Azure public cloud is going to be a private, a, a dedicated wire or the connection, the fiber connection will be established between the sites. Whereas VPN is going through the internet. So benefits up to 100 Gbps bandwidth. If you need higher speed connectivity, high speed connectivity between your data center and the cloud, then you can go for this. Supports dynamic scaling of bandwidth and direct access to national clouds. So global reach, traffic over private connection, up to there's availability also. Your ISP guarantees the availability of 99.95% your cloud and the ISP. Can be complex to set up. Working with a third-party connectivity provider requires high bandwidth routers and processors. So this is something. So these are the two connectivity types you can have in Azure. If you're talking particularly about Azure, you can have site-to-site connectivity with the help of IPsec tunnel, or you can have express route or express direct connection uh, between your on-prem data center and the cloud. We have seen this already, the technology comparison, because we were discussing, in the last session, we discussed about the load balancer, L4 load balancer application gateway, which is the L7 load balancer. We have seen Azure front door. We have seen this one actually. This load balancer application gateway, front door, traffic manager. Today we are looking at VPN gateway. So here it is giving the related technologies and the products available in the market. If you're going for the same thing on-prem. So on-prem technologies for the load balancer is F5, big IP, which is also called as LTM, local traffic manager. Application gateway also, F5 also has that product with the WAF functionality. Azure front door is compared to Akamai and Cloudflare companies. These are not the on-prem solutions. Traffic manager, the Infoblox is one of the on-prem solution which you can deploy. Azure VPN gateway, as I told you, it can be a Cisco ASA is a firewall product of Cisco, and there's a Juniper product also, SRX. So nowadays every firewall comes with the VPN technology built into it. So these are different technology comparisons. Now let's see this VPN in action. We can do a demo and establish a site-to-site connectivity. Okay, we'll have a demo here now. We'll do a demo. So we have a demo here from Microsoft Learn platform. Okay. Okay, so we have a scenario here. Configure server settings for point to site VPN, not point to site. I want to do point to point. So we can see both the scenarios. You have a tutorial here. Create a site-to-site VPN connection to Azure portal. In the Azure portal actually. So this is the scenario. What we are going to do. So we have Azure network and we have an on-prem network. Okay, we'll look at the process. What exactly we're doing in this demo. We're creating a virtual network. We're creating a VPN gateway, local network gateway, VPN connection, verify the connection and connect to virtual machine. And this is a pretty long lab, but it will really enforce your learning, whatever you have learned so far. So if you bear with me and follow along, you will have a good idea on how to set up the VPN. So this is real practical scenario of setting up the VPN. The only difference is that instead of doing it on on-prem solution, we are doing it on the cloud. So I'm going to explain the process. And in this scenario, you see one side is the Azure uh, virtual network, and the other side is the on-prem scenario. So what we'll do is we don't have an on-prem setup here, so we'll make use of Azure VNet itself as an on-prem solution and establish this site-to-site connectivity. So I'll show you how on the whiteboard how we are going to do it. So we'll consider this another VNet as on-prem setup. So let me tell you on the whiteboard what we are going to do. Okay, so we are going to establish now a site-to-site. Okay. So first part is this will configure our virtual network. The virtual network will deploy and create one subnet and will host one server here, a virtual machine. Okay, this will consider this as site one and we'll create, let's create this in East US. We'll create site two, another VNet in a different region, let's say West US. Now this you have to consider this as on-prem setup. Configuration and the deployment will be similar. Since we don't have any on-prem setup, we'll make use of Azure Azure VNet itself as a on-prem setup. So let's say we have a similar setup here. Okay, now before VPN, let me ask you this question. I have these two virtual networks, two different setups. What is the solution available on Azure itself to connect these two sites to these two VNets? Can anyone tell me?
VNet peering.
VNet pairing, exactly. So we have a solution here already in place by Azure itself, which is called VNet pairing, for which you don't need to deploy any additional product or the solution. So you just have to configure the VNet pairing between the virtual network in order to make this VM access this VM and vice versa. So this is one of the solution. You can also now VNet pairing. There are limitations in VNet pairing, so you might also consider doing a site-to-site connectivity. Let's say this belongs to a different. Let's talk about the different customers. This is one. This is you, your own business, and site one uh, is your business, and site two is a third party. So if you want to establish a connectivity between these two, VNet pairing is not an ideal solution because you have very limited security controls on it. So what you can do is you can you can establish a IPsec tunnel. You can do a side-to-side tunnel in this scenario as well. So between the Azure, I'll share with you what are the limitations of the site to VPN pairing. There are security limitations, I guess. Otherwise, VNet pairing is the best solution to have a connection established between two virtual networks on the Azure itself, because this all this traffic travels over the Azure backbone. It is a VNet pairing. It all happens on the Azure backbone. So it doesn't leave Azure backbone and go to the internet and come back to the network. So that is the advantage of having the VNet pairing. Now here we are considering this as uh, two different sites. This as a cloud setup. This is a Azure network, and this we are considering as the on-prem setup. So we'll see the process, what exactly is needed on both the sides. We'll configure the site-to-site connection, and we'll also do a point-to-site connection. We'll take one of the users. This user will establish a connection to your Azure network with the help of point-to-site connectivity. Okay, so we'll see these two things: site-to-site connectivity and point-to-site connectivity. Right. So let's follow this lab. Let's look at it. What we are doing. We'll start here. Okay, I'm going to share the screen now. Okay. So as we followed the process of using the whiteboard explanation on the labs and the demos as well, we will do the same here so that you see what exactly you're building on Azure and what we are trying to do. So I'm on my Azure portal, Azure account. Let me just close the unwanted windows here. So we'll have this portal as the lab. So let's read through it a little bit to understand what we're doing. In this tutorial, you use Azure portal to create site-to-site VPN gateway connection between your on-premises network and a virtual network. You can also create this configuration by using Azure PowerShell or Azure CLI. Okay, this configuration uses a specified pre-shared key. So we are using a pre-shared key for authentication between the VPN gateways, or the connection between the VPN gateway and your on-premises VPN device. You can also configure a site-to-site connection using the certificate authentication. So there are two mechanisms you can use for authenticating these two devices, VPN devices, using a pre-shared key, which is like a password, which you can share between two, or you can use the certificate for authentication. So we'll use the pre-shared key here. It will be much simpler. You can practice also with the certificate later. Let's stick to this one right now. So these are the steps we are going to perform. We'll first create a virtual network. So let's proceed with it. Create a virtual network. And this must be now a very familiar exercise for you guys, and you should be able to do it all on your own. Right. So we are going to create a virtual network now. We are going to create a resource group, and this will be a virtual network name. It's going to be in ECUS, and it's going to have this as an IP range. And we are also going to create a subnet called front-end subnet, and that front-end subnet is going to have the subnet range. Okay, so let's draw this thing up, okay, and understand it. All right. So the advantage of drawing this along with the demo is that you will see how when you see the Azure diagrams, you will be easily able to break down each component. You know how this whole sometimes it looks very complex, right? The diagram looks very complex, too many components. How those components fit in. This exercise will really help you understand those components and break down each one of them. So what we are doing now here is this: we are creating a VNet. I always represent this as a block because this is how it is represented in the network diagrams. So we are going to create a virtual network. Why it is so dim? Because of this. So, so resource group, what is the resource group? Test RG. Test RG is our resource group name. And without having a resource group, we can't create the resources in Azure platform, right? This is our VNet, and our VNet IP range is going to be 10.0.0.0/16. That's the IP range. And in this VNet, we are creating a subnet called frontend. So we are going to create one subnet, and it's called frontend. Okay, and this subnet is going to have the IP range 10.100/24. 10.100/24. This is what we are doing. We are creating a resource group, we are creating a VNet, and we are creating a subnet in that VNet. So let's follow this now. Virtual network, VNet, VNet. Let's copy this stuff. Okay, so I'm going to use a new resource group here. Okay, and virtual network name, we're going to name it as VNet1. Virtual network VNet1, and we are going to create this as ECUS, let's say. Okay, and next, IP range, we are going to use this IP range default for the virtual network itself. And in the virtual network, we are going to create one subnet called frontend. So let's keep the default subnet as is. We'll create one more subnet here. How do we add the subnet? And IP subnet. No, not the virtual network. Add a subnet. You can see here. So it's going to be default subnet or frontend subnet. We'll name it frontend subnet. Default frontend. and you're going to use the IP range 10/10/100 /24. Oh, this is not part of this range, really? Yes, because this range is different. The main range itself is different. So we're using 10/100/16. So we'll update that in the whiteboard. We're using this IP range. This is our major range. This we are sort of dividing in different subnets for our lab for the demo. So that's our main range. Let's update that. So this is our main range. This is our default subnet. We'll rename the default subnet itself. We'll call it as uh, content subnet. That's the range we are using. Okay, so our front-end subnet now matches the IP range we are using. It could be 10.1.0.0/24. Save it. So that's our virtual network range, and that is our subnet we are creating. And then says when you use a virtual network as part of the cross-26 architecture, be sure to coordinate with your on-prem network administrator. This is what the note says. Now, since we are setting up this network on the cloud, so if it is for the same company, you have to understand this IP address ranging. The IP range which you're using on-prem should not be the same which you're using on-prem on the cloud. So that you have to agree upon and change the IP range accordingly. So this is done. Then this. So where are the steps actually? So we are creating here. Okay. So we reached here. IP address. We have assigned the IP address. We have changed the subnet. Review and create. So that's it. We will review and create the subnet. This will validate if everything is okay. All right, everything is okay. Deployed. After you create your virtual network, you can optionally configure Azure DDoS protection. We are now doing that right now. Create a gateway subnet. Okay. This virtual network gateway requires a specific subnet name. So this is what we are going to do now. Now there are some subnets which when you create on Azure, you have to follow the specific naming for it because that is as per the documentation from Azure. So now we are going to create one more subnet called gateway subnet. Okay. This is the name. You have to use the exact naming convention. It's part of the IP address range for your virtual network and contains the IP addresses that the Azure virtual network gateway resources and services use. When you create the gateway subnet, you specify the number of IP addresses that subnet contains. The number of IP addresses needed depends on the VPN gateway configuration that you want to create. Some configurations require more IP addresses than others. So it is best to specify /27 or /26 or 25, etc. for your gateway subnet. So depending on the size of the VPN connectivity requirement, so if you're configuring this VPN subnet, let's say this Azure VNet which you're creating, this Azure network itself is going to be your headquarters. You're considering this as your head office, the main data center. So in that case, what it is saying is that when you're creating a gateway subnet, should create it based on the requirement. How many number of connections, IPsec tunnels you'll be having from different offices or the branch offices, right? So this will be acting as your headquarters, and you'll have all your branch offices connecting to the Azure network through the IPsec tunnel. So this subnet address range is it matters in that scenario. So if you use, you can either use /27, /26, or 25. What happens? So with each subnet, it gives you number of IP addresses available in the subnet. So let's see how many IPs we get in the /27. On the page in the virtual network, now we are going to create a subnet, right? So we have the VNet already created. So within this VNet, we are going to the subnets now. You can see the subnets. We have already one subnet called frontend, and that's the IP range. And in this default /24, we get 255 IP addresses which are usable, which we can assign to the systems. So now we are creating a subnet, and it's going to be uh, what is the settings we are going to use here? Subnet page, add subnet page. For the subnet purpose, select virtual network gateway. So this is what we have to do. So this is a little different what we are doing from all previous exercises. So we are creating a subnet, specifically selecting it as a virtual network gateway. Okay, that's the subnet we have to select from the drop down. The name is automatically entered as gateway subnet. So you can see subnet is already named as gateway subnet. We don't have to do anything. This is already configured in the backend from Microsoft. So all you have to do is just make sure that you select the subnet purpose. The purpose of this subnet is going to be gateway subnet because this will be a gateway between your on-prem site as well as and your other site. So between these two sites, this will be a gateway subnet. Right now, this gateway subnet is automatically named adjust starting IP address. So now we're going to give it the range of 10.1 to 55. There's a call to prayer happening here. I'll pause for 2 minutes. Okay, what we'll do is we'll create this gateway subnet and then we'll take a break, half an hour break, and continue after that. So now we are going to create a subnet for gateway. Now the IP range we are going to use is N12550/27. Okay, let's add the subnet, gateway subnet, IP range. We'll do this. We don't mention 27 here. So you see here, when you choose the subnets, if you're viewing 27/27, uh, you get 32 addresses. That means in this subnet, you can assign 32 IP addresses, uh, which are available for the VPN gateway subnet. So yeah, so let's create this now. That 10.1.255.0/27, and that's it. I think the subnets are ready. Now comes the major configuration, creating the VPN gateway and configuring the VPN gateway. So we'll see this after the break. So we got so far virtual network ready. So in the virtual network, we got two subnets created. This is our virtual network, and these are the two subnets, content subnet and the gateway subnet. Right. So let's continue this exercise, this demo after the break. So we'll be taking the half an hour break now and continuing after that.
Recording. Stop the recording.
Thanks for reminding. I'll stop the recording.